Good morning, everybody. It's Marty, the JavaScript party. My buddy Rhett is out in the living room because I don't know, for some reason my daughter-in-law is bringing her dogs by today. I'm not sure exactly why. I think something to do with haircut or something like that. But anyway, so they're going to be here, and I just don't know what time they're going to be here, so I didn't want to bring Rhett out and put her at risk of taking a hit. But anyway, so we are working on ThreeJS. It is 8:46 a.m. 59 degrees Fahrenheit outside and sunny. It's going to be a hot one today. I think it's going to be like 87 degrees or something. It's the high. Let's see. See full forecast. Edge takes over the entire screen because it's greedy. Let's see. What are we looking at here? 80, 85 Fahrenheit today. I don't know what that is in Celsius, but oh no, the high of today is going to be 86 degrees. I plan to go running around here, and this time so it's going to be hot. So that's going to be fun. Fun, fun, fun. Anyway, so we're still building here. We are working on our ThreeJS project, and it is fun and cool, but it is taking a lot longer than I expected it to take. And it was just like one of those things I knew that the complexities of trying to create like a system. Well, another thing I realized this morning too, just to make more excuses, the I've never really had to get down and dirty on the memory leaks before and on deleting in specific. So I really truly underestimated the challenges involved. And also, had I built sort of deleting in from the beginning, it probably would have been um, like it probably would have been so much faster. But you kind of have to know what you're doing to be able to do it. And then also, I really wish so. Like if we go here to data entities, and then we add one of these. So this is sort of a representation of an actual visualization. And it would be really nice if I could just upload a JSON with this or a CSV or something that has this sort of stuff defined in it, and then it would just generate the visualization for me. Like that would be really cool. And so it would have been cool had I started with it kind of being like just an uploader. And then that instead of hitting add viz, you actually did upload and all that. But the thing is that while that makes total sense and is very reasonable, it was not feasible because it's easy to reason about, but it's not easy to reason about. Feasible, reason um, about because the thing was we discovered these, we invented these structures as part of this software development process. That makes this was is more of an exploration project than it is an actual building project. I never really realized that before, but there's like sort of the scientific side of things where you're kind of trying to figure out what all the best ways of doing specific things are and all that, and determine what the things are and categorize and everything and all that. And that's like super important. And the problem is it's hard to really settle down on anything like that because the actual industry is still like in growth state straight. But then there's also the like, hey, I'm building something that I've already built 10 times, right? Like, so they say the best books were not written, they're rewritten. Like somebody's already attempted to rewrite the book like 10 times, and then finally somebody writes it. As a matter of fact, I heard that everything Shakespeare ever did was a rewrite of existing things, that was a very common way of doing things back then, is you take an existing story and then you put your spin on it. And that was like the way things were done. Well, I couldn't do that because this is the first time, right? I've never seen anyone build anything like this before. I'm like inventing this as I go, which is a very different and not a very profitable type of thing. So companies aren't particularly interested in doing this kind of of work, you know. So The only people I don't know who would be interested in it, but I am interested in it because I just like this stuff. But anyway, so now we are trying to delete our geometry. So when we go over here and we hit delete, and then we go back, you see we still have our geometry. We want that geometry to go away, but before the geometry can go away, it needs to delete its children. It needs to tell whatever to delete its children. It has no children. So actually, all it needs to do is just make sure that it's not being used by anything else. But it does not need to tell anything to delete it. Um, but we do need in our mesh service, we need a a we need it to tell us if there's any other meshes for a given geometry ID available, like if they exist at all. And so what you need to do, and this isn't going to work, but what you really need to do is like the intelligence for a mesh service needs to be for a mesh and how to interact, how to read a mesh, how to determine things about the mesh and all that needs to be in the mesh service, not in the geometry service. But the geometry needs to know if it can delete itself, and before it can delete itself, it has to make sure that it isn't in the it is being isn't being used anywhere else. And right now, at this point in time, the only other place it could possibly be used is in another mesh. That doesn't mean it's always going to be that way. But so the sort of, and there's nothing wrong with what I'm about to do other than what doesn't work, right? The fact that it doesn't work, but there's no like computer science or other kind of problem with two services including each other, but Angular doesn't allow that, and I think it's something to do with the word eager loading, eager dependency resolution, I believe is what they call it, because Angular does eager dependency resolution. That means two things that depend on each other can't be ever created because it needs before it'll create the service, it creates all its dependencies. Um, which is a very reasonable way to do things, but you can't if before I can create myself, I have to create my dependencies have to be created, and if I'm the dependency to one of my dependencies, that'll cause like an infinite loop. So and that's just one of the many reasons why you can get an ng 0200. I do think that is the one that I see most often though. So anyway, so what we typically would want to do is get our ST material service, right? So ST material service and ST material service, and that equals inject. And I'm doing this on purpose, and this is literally going to add 10 times as much time at least to um, to what I'm trying to do, going through this, but I want to experience this because when this happens this will sooner or later. It's not if, it's when this happens at my actual job. And the application where I work is significantly, like at least 10 times more complex than this application. So I need to get as comfortable with this issue within my, let's try this. How do you do this? I'm trying to, let's see. There we go. I've had to disable my microphone just for a second so that I could cough. And that's like something I didn't know how to do. Now, I'm very confused because ST material service should not work. Did I not hit save? I thought I hit save. So I'm expecting ST this to break, but it does not appear to be breaking. But I believe that the ST material service. Oh, so the dogs are getting dropped off. Okay, so this. Oh, so oddly enough, this does not create its own geometries. Interesting. I wonder. I feel like it should, right? Like, oh, what am I doing? Sorry, I went crazy there for a second. It's not ST material service. It's ST mesh service. ST mesh service. All right, so let's try to bring in our ST mesh service. Kind of like to have my injections together. So let's move that down here. And then go here, and then go here, and then private ST mesh service. ST mesh service equals inject ST mesh service. Now, let's see, should everything break? Yes, see, everything broke. And if we look in here, we'll see this console log error, and we're going to see the ng 0200 circular dependency detected error. So we cannot do this. So we have to go like this. Okay. And this is what we call a deferred. Okay, so can't create this here. Need to defer the load. For the defer the retrieval. So deferring is a little bit weird because it's slightly different than actually creating, because when you defer, you're assuming that it already exists, which is a little bit different. When in this, if you read this slide of code in English, what you're saying is, hey, can you go ahead and create this because I'm going to need it. Whereas over here, we're going to say, hey, can you go ahead and get me what was already created? And I believe when I do, the way I've set up my deferred loading, it will actually create one if it didn't exist as well. According to ChatGPT, it will. And I did do some testing, and it seemed like it did. All right, so we need a class, and the purpose of the class, the only purpose of the class is to load deferred dependencies. And I'm trying to get really comfortable with that phrasing. And this just to remind myself, this TS config is upset because is red, and it's because, and this wasn't like this last week. It started this week because something in TypeScript has become deprecated. So it's warning me ahead of time. But as you can see, I'm in this mode of creating deferred classes, and we need to create a we need to create a class whose job is to load the geometries deferred dependencies. And like, it would make a lot of sense. ST. I guess there's probably a geometry tree and ST geometry deferred. All right, so now we want to actually run this. And before I run something like this, I always like to imagine what I expect to see. And I think what I expect to see is inside of here, I expect to see a new class appear. So I'm going to run that. npm run class. Oh, it doesn't. It would be nice if it looked in there when it saw npm run. And I feel like I just want to copy this. And we're just going to run this real quick. I hope everything works out. dependencies. So we're wanting to see something appear in here. Up in here, up in here. I would say that like on a scale of 1 to 10, this is probably for me as being just deep into this is probably like a 3 now. It's pretty reasonable. I understand what's going on and all that. This was impossible a month ago. Like I just couldn't understand. I could not make sense of it. It would just confuse the crap out of me. All right, so now we have our new deferred dependency class, geometry deferred dependency class. So tomorrow we need to start putting our um, we need to basically copy this guy here. It's very short, it's very boilerplate. It probably would make sense just to create like a centralized deferred dependency class that everything uses, but I just don't want that level of abstraction. Because I think there is another even more nasty circular NG200 circular dependency issue that will kind of show itself from time to time. And I definitely, when that does happen, I want things to be as clear as possible so that I have a better chance of figuring it out. Because apparently, once you start adding dependencies upon dependencies, once you get deeper in and you got this chain of dependencies, you'll that 200 dependency circular thing will start to appear again. And when that appears, it I want these things to be sort of teased apart so that I can step through it and understand it. I don't want to have some abstract thing that gets extended and then I'll also have these different versions of these classes that are the same class but different. I don't need that. Anyways, happy coding, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Bye.